The grand halls of the Zareth Dominion shone with silver light. Tall pillars carved from living crystal reached toward the ceiling, glowing with soft energy. Alien nobles filled the chamber, their eyes sharp and cold as they watched the ceremony. They whispered among themselves, their voices carrying judgment and mockery. For today, their queen was marrying a human. To the Zareth, humans were strange, weak creatures. Their bodies seemed fragile compared to the towering frames of the Dominion's warriors. Their technology was clever, but their lifespan was short. To the proud nobles of the Dominion, humans were little more than curiosities, useful perhaps as allies, but unworthy of respect. Yet their queen, Sarathis of the Silver Crown, had chosen to bind her fate to one. At the center of the hall, Sarathis stood tall, wearing armor shaped like flowing water, her crown gleaming, her eyes glowed faintly violet, sharp and commanding. Her presence demanded silence whenever she moved, for she had ruled through wars and political storms alike. She was a warrior and a monarch, and she was feared across 100 star systems. Beside her stood Elias Ward, a human. He did not wear armor of crystal or robes of power. Instead, he wore a simple formal uniform of earth, dark blue with silver trim. His face was calm, his eyes steady, his posture unshaken even though hundreds of alien eyes stared at him with disdain. He looked neither nervous nor proud. He simply stood, the nobles whispered louder. Fragile bones. Look at him, he would break in a training hall. The queen lowers herself to marry prey. Perhaps she pities the creature. Or perhaps she is playing some clever trick. Sarathis heard every word. She ignored them. But deep inside, she felt the weight of their stares. She had agreed to this marriage not for love, not for desire, but for politics. Earth was a rising world, clever in machines and daring in spirit. But it was still small, still untested. A marriage would bind them to her dominion, giving her power over their future. She expected little from Elias himself. He was, in her eyes, a tool. The ceremony was short. Alien words were spoken, vows exchanged, ancient symbols burned into the air with energy. Elias repeated them in his steady voice, never stumbling. He did not tremble when the glowing crown touched his head. When Sarathis looked at him, she expected to see awe or fear in his eyes. Instead, she saw something strange, calm, unbroken calm. After the ceremony, the nobles crowded around, showering the queen with shallow praise while their eyes lingered on Elias like hunters mocking a caged animal. One general smirked. "Does Earth send you their bravest, Queen Sarathis?" He looks more scholar than soldier. His arms thin, his skin soft. The nobles laughed quietly. Elias did not react. He only sipped from a cup of glowing wine, his gaze thoughtful as if studying the design of the hall instead of the insults thrown his way. Later, when the guests had gone, Sarathis confronted him. "You do not speak much." "Human." Elias looked at her, his dark eyes calm. "I speak when there is something worth saying. You let them mock you without reply. Why should I waste words on noise?" He said. "They see weakness because they want to. I do not need their approval." For a brief moment, Sarathis felt something unusual, curiosity. Most humans she had met either boasted too much, trying to prove themselves, or shrank back under the weight of alien eyes. Elias did neither. He stood like a stone in a river, unmoved. Still, she told herself, calm did not equal strength. He was no warrior. He was no ruler. He was a human diplomat dressed as a husband. Days turned into weeks. Elias lived among the palace halls, walking the crystalline gardens, speaking rarely but always observing. He listened to the way the servants talked. He studied the maps that hung in war chambers. He learned the small gestures of the alien courtiers that even Sarathis herself ignored. When he joined Sarathis for meals, he asked quiet questions. "Why do the nobles always leave one seat empty at the table? Why do your soldiers lower their weapons 3 times when saluting? Why do you never eat the first fruit of the harvest?" Sarathis at first dismissed his questions, but over time she realized he noticed details even her ministers overlooked. He was building a picture of her world in silence, piece by piece, like a hunter studying the tracks of prey. One evening, while walking the high balconies of the palace, Sarathis tested him. "You see much, Elias, but tell me, do you regret this bond? Do you regret marrying into a world that will never truly accept you?" Elias leaned on the railing, looking down at the glowing city below. Ships moved through the sky like sparks of light. Regret? No. Earth has many clever people, many brave ones. But we lack experience. We are still young in the stars. Here I can learn, here I can watch, and perhaps one day that knowledge will matter. Sarathis narrowed her eyes. Knowledge is not strength. Elias turned, and for the first time since their marriage, his calm face shifted into a faint smile. That depends on how you use it. The queen said nothing, but her mind lingered on his words long after he left. The weeks continued. Whispers of unrest reached the palace. A rival empire, the Krovax swarm, stirred on the borders, raiding outposts and testing defenses. The nobles sharpened their voices, calling for more warriors, more weapons. Elias listened in silence, never speaking during council, never offering an opinion. To the nobles, this proved his weakness. But one night when Sarathis returned to her chambers, she found him studying the star maps left on her table. He traced the Krovax movements with a finger, his brow furrowed. "You should not touch those," Sarathis said. "I know," Elias replied. He looked up, his gaze steady. "But your enemies are not striking at random. They are testing you. They're searching for the weakest point. If I were them, I would strike here." He pointed at a small trade hub near the border. "It looks unimportant, but it is the hinge of your supply lines. Lose that and you bleed slowly until your fleet starve." Sarathis froze. He had spoken the exact analysis her war council had debated for hours earlier that day. No one outside the chamber should have known. "How do you know this?" she asked sharply. Elias shrugged. "Patterns. Enemies reveal themselves if you watch carefully." For the first time, Sarathis felt a chill. She had thought him harmless. Perhaps not weak, but harmless. Yet in his quiet study, he had uncovered truths her own generals struggled to see. Still, she told herself, knowledge was not the same as strength. A storm was coming, and storms were met with warriors, not thinkers. Elias might notice patterns, but when the blood began to spill, he would still be only human, or so she believed. The morning sun rose over the crystalline city of Zareth, casting long beams of light that danced along the palace walls. Sarathis walked along the high balcony, her violet eyes scanning the horizon. Ships moved in precise formation across the skies, carrying soldiers to training grounds and supply points. Everything was perfect, or so it appeared, yet the whispers of war could not be silenced. Word had reached the palace that the Krovax swarm was massing near the outer rim. The Krovax were infamous across multiple star systems for their relentless conquests and brutal methods. Entire worlds had fallen under their claws, their populations enslaved or destroyed. They were a threat unlike any other the Dominion had faced in decades. Inside the War Council chamber, the nobles spoke in heated voices. Holographic maps hovered over the table, showing the positions of Zareth fleets and Krovax incursions. "They grow bolder," one general hissed, his long, armored fingers tapping on the table. "If we do not strike first, they will hit our supply hubs. They will cut us off before the fleets are even ready. We must reinforce the borders," another said. "We cannot rely on chance." "We cannot," a soft voice interrupted. "Chance favors the prepared mind," Elias Ward said quietly from his seat in the corner. The nobles immediately looked down their noses at him. "You again, human?" a noble snapped. "Your place is here to sit quietly, not to lecture generals." Elias did not flinch. He folded his hands calmly. "I speak because I see patterns others ignore. The Krovax always probe first. Their strength is in deception, not in open assault. If you watch carefully, you can anticipate their moves." Sarathis watched him, her expression unreadable. The generals scowled and muttered, but she said nothing. There was a strange calm in his voice, one that made her consider, however briefly, that maybe humans were not as weak as they appeared. The council ended without agreement, the nobles storming out, claiming that more action would be taken once the fleets arrived. Elias stayed behind to study the maps, tracing the Krovax movements with deliberate fingers. Later that evening, Sarathis walked into the library of the palace. She found him there, seated cross-legged on the floor, holographic maps floating in front of him. "You are always here," she said. "Always observing?" Elias looked up, his dark eyes steady. "I learn by watching. You cannot command what you do not understand." Sarathis folded her arms. "And what is it that you understand about the Krovax?" "They test first. Not your strength, but your weaknesses. They watch how you respond. Then they strike where you least expect it. She frowned. That is obvious. The generals know this. They will prepare. Preparation is only valuable if it is correct. They may believe they know your defenses, but I see the points they will exploit. You must reinforce them first. She did not answer. Instead, she observed him quietly. His calm manner, his careful study, it unsettled her. And for the first time, she wondered if her judgment of humans had been wrong. A week passed. The rumors of Krovax attacks became reality. Border stations reported small raids, scouting parties, and sudden assaults on supply routes. Panic spread among some of the nobles. They underestimated them, one general said angrily. We should have sent more fleets. The humans are weak. The queen, Sarathis silenced him with a glare. The human is beside me because I allow it. Your fear does not change that. Elias watched the reports come in quietly. When a strike hit a supply hub, he noted the timing, the weapons used, the patterns in the Krovax maneuvers. They are testing here, he said. They want to see how we respond. We must not show panic. We must respond methodically. The nobles sneered. Methodically? That is what a weak mind does. Quick strikes, overwhelming force, that is strength. Elias smiled faintly. Strength is not only force. It is persistence, calculation, and adaptation. They will fall if we can outthink them. That night, Sarathis found herself restless. She walked the palace corridors and ended up at the humans' chambers. She had always been cautious, but curiosity drew her to him. You sleep little, she said. I sleep when I must. Observation does not pause. Elias's tone was matter-of-fact. I know where they will strike next. It is predictable if you look at the patterns. Sarathis shook her head. You speak of predictions, but even my best generals cannot match the Krovax's speed. They are ruthless. Ruthless does not mean unbeatable, he said simply. They are clever, yes, but they are also creatures of habit. Watch, wait, and act at the right moment, and even the strongest enemy can falter. She paused, considering his words. There was something unnerving about the calm certainty in his voice. She had expected fear, perhaps hesitation, but there was none. He seemed ready. A sudden alarm broke the quiet of the night. Red lights flashed across the palace. A ship had breached the outer defense grid, a Krovax scout vessel. The nobles panicked, shouting orders and demanding weapons. Sarathis moved swiftly, summoning her elite guards. But Elias did not move. He observed. They probe, he said. Do not react rashly. Let them show their intent. The queen hesitated, then nodded. She trusted him more than her own counsel in this moment. The scouts fired warning shots near a supply hub. And then they retreated. Why didn't we strike? A general demanded. Because, Elias said, striking now would reveal our own weakness. Let them think they can intimidate us. The real battle is not yet here. Sarathis stared at him. He was right. She could see it. Many of her own warriors had acted impulsively, wasting energy on a small skirmish. The human had preserved their strength, seen the strategy in the chaos. The days that followed tested the palace more than any previous threat. Scouts reported small Krovax raids almost daily. Nobles continued their criticisms of Elias, calling him weak, calling him useless. Yet each time, he proved that careful observation, patience, and understanding were just as valuable as physical strength. One night, Sarathis confronted him again in private. You are not what I expected, she said quietly. I am what I am, Elias replied. You are clever, she admitted, more clever than your body suggests. But cleverness alone will not save us when war arrives. Your strength, I have yet to see it. Elias smiled faintly, not arrogantly, but with quiet confidence. Strength is not only in the body, Your Majesty. When the time comes, you will see. For now, patience is our ally. Sarathis felt a strange mixture of curiosity and unease. She had ruled countless systems, fought innumerable battles, and yet this human made her feel uncertain. Not because he was weak, but because she could not predict him. Perhaps she realized humans were not meant to be predictable. Then the first true assault came. A Krovax strike force targeted a remote outpost. The nobles immediately called for full fleets, demanding retaliation. Sarathis listened as the debate grew heated. She glanced at Elias, who studied the star charts with calm eyes. Let them come closer, he said softly. We will respond where it counts, not where they expect us to. Let their hubris guide them. The generals protested, but Sarathis trusted him, or at least was willing to test his theory. When the Krovax fleet arrived, they found the outpost abandoned but booby-trapped with clever human-engineered devices. Ships that had been hidden among asteroids suddenly emerged, striking key points of the enemy formation. Within hours, the Krovaks were forced to retreat, confused and surprised. The nobles were stunned. How? One whispered. Elias did not boast. He only observed the aftermath, noting their weaknesses, their errors, and their patterns. Sarathis watched him, her mind racing. For the first time, she realized that the man she thought weak, her common human, might hold a power that no brute force could match. The warning bells rang across the Dominion like thunder. Red lights flooded the palace halls as the Krovaks fleet appeared on the horizon, far larger and faster than any patrol had reported. Even the most confident nobles hesitated, their sharp eyes flicking nervously to one another. "This is no probe," a general barked. "This is the main force. They intend to crush us before we can react." Sarathis stood at the balcony, her violet eyes scanning the approaching ships. Hundreds of Krovaks vessels moved with lethal precision, their black hulls glinting under the starlit sky. Behind her, the council murmured in panic, suggesting fleet reinforcements, preemptive strikes, and defensive maneuvers. Elias Ward, standing quietly beside her, did not speak. His calm gaze traced the enemy formation, studying every ship, every movement. "They are overconfident," he said finally. "They believe we are weak, that we are disorganized, that we will panic." The noble snorted derisively. "And what do you suggest, human? That you, with your fragile frame, command fleets? You would die before you even touched a weapon." Elias's dark eyes met theirs steadily. "I do not command from the front lines. I command with my mind. Strength is not only in the body. Watch carefully and you will see." Sarathis felt a flicker of curiosity. Perhaps the human she had married could indeed surprise her. Perhaps there was more to him than she had expected. The Krovaks fleet moved closer. Their assault began with precision strikes on peripheral supply stations. Explosions lit the darkness of space, alarms blaring across the Dominion's command centers. "Deploy the fleets," shouted one of the generals. "We must strike now before they gain the advantage." Sarathis hesitated. She glanced at Elias. "Wait," he said. "Do not react to their noise. Let them commit their strength first. Observe, adapt." The generals bristled. "Observe? We are losing ships." "Not yet," Elias replied calmly. "The battle has not started. The Krovaks will overextend. That is when we strike." Against her better judgment, Sarathis trusted him. She ordered the fleets to hold their positions, maintaining a defensive perimeter rather than a reckless attack. Hours passed. The Krovaks, confident in their superior numbers, advanced further into Dominion space. Their formations split as they attempted to outflank the defenses. Elias studied their every movement, making notes and adjustments. He pointed to gaps in the enemy formation. "Here, their left wing moves faster than the right. Their ships are overexposed. We strike here precisely and we can divide them." Sarathis issued the orders. Zareth ships shifted quietly, almost imperceptibly, to exploit the gaps. A small human-engineered fleet hidden among asteroids emerged suddenly, firing concentrated beams that disabled key Krovak ships. Panic spread through the enemy lines as their careful formation collapsed. The nobles gasped. "How?" One muttered. Elias only observed. "They underestimated us. That is their mistake. We will capitalize on it." The battle escalated. Krovak's fighters swarmed toward the Dominion's main defense stations, intending to destroy them and cripple the fleet's coordination. Sarathis prepared her personal guards, expecting to be forced into combat. Elias moved silently through the command center. He did not touch a weapon, did not shout commands, yet his mind seemed to guide the battle, predicting enemy maneuvers, directing fleets to positions where their impact would be greatest. A sudden explosion rocked the main fleet. A Krovak strike ship had breached the perimeter. Alarmed, a group of generals prepared to retaliate with full force, risking entire squadrons. "Stop," Elias commanded, his voice calm but firm. "Focus your fire here." The generals hesitated. "Human, this is madness. We will lose." "Do as I say," Sarathis ordered, overriding their objections. Elias pointed to a weak spot on the Krovak's ship's hull. Using concentrated fire from a coordinated fleet strike, the vessel was destroyed before it could reach the defense station. Even Sarathis felt a thrill of surprise. He had acted decisively, yet without a single weapon of his own. The human she had thought fragile had directed the tide of battle. The fight moved beyond the outer defenses. The Krovaks unleashed their most dangerous weapon, a massive siege drone capable of destroying entire stations in moments. The generals panicked. "We cannot stop it. No fleet can survive." Elias studied the massive drone. He pointed out structural weaknesses and potential blind spots. "Their shield generators are exposed. We hit them simultaneously. Use their own speed against them." The Dominion fleet acted. Precision strikes targeted the drone's weak points. Explosions lit the void, and after tense moments the massive enemy weapon exploded into fragments. A cheer rose among the Dominion pilots. For the first time they felt the tide turning. Cerethis turned to Elias, her violet eyes wide. You are not what I expected." "You are more than clever, you are a strategist." Elias's expression remained calm. "I am a human. We survive because we learn, adapt, and push beyond what seems possible. Your warriors fight well, but they follow rules. We create opportunities." The Queen realized he was right. The humans' greatest strength was their unpredictability, their ability to think differently, to improvise, to persist when all seemed lost. The battle raged for hours. The Krovaks were relentless, but Elias continued to predict their moves. Each time they attempted a new maneuver, he had a counter, guiding the Dominion forces to anticipate and adapt. Finally, the Krovaks began to retreat, their losses mounting beyond reason. The Dominion fleet pursued cautiously, but under Elias's guidance they targeted only what was necessary, conserving resources and avoiding unnecessary risk. By the time the last enemy ship fled beyond sensor range, the Dominion had suffered minimal losses, while the Krovaks had lost nearly half their fleet. The nobles were stunned. They whispered among themselves, unable to hide their awe. "The human, he is more than a man, he is—" Cerethis did not wait for them to finish. She turned to Elias. "And tell me, you were never just a diplomat, were you?" He shook his head. "No, I have fought. I have survived battles you cannot imagine, and I have learned that strength is not always in muscles or armor. It is in knowing, in planning, and in acting when the moment is right." The Queen felt a strange mix of admiration and unease. For weeks she had underestimated him. She had thought him fragile, harmless, even amusing. Now she realized her mistake. The human she had married was far stronger than anyone had believed, and perhaps far stronger than she had imagined. In the following days, reports of small Krovaks attacks continued, but the Dominion responded with a precision that surprised even Cerethis. Each victory seemed effortless, guided by Elias's calm strategies. The nobles began to murmur in respect, some even approaching Elias cautiously to ask for advice. He did not boast, nor did he demand recognition. He only observed, planned, and acted when necessary. Cerethis watched him closely. She realized that she had married not a weak human, but a man capable of extraordinary feats, strength hidden beneath a quiet exterior, revealed only when the moment demanded it, and she knew that the true test had not yet come. The Krovaks had only begun their campaign. The real war would challenge the Dominion in ways they could not yet imagine. But she also knew this. With Elias by her side, the Dominion had a chance. Not because of sheer force, but because of something the aliens had long underestimated: human ingenuity, persistence, and the unbreakable will to survive. For the first time in her reign, Cerethis felt hope, not just as a ruler, but as a queen standing beside a man who would change the course of war forever. The test of strength had begun, and Elias Ward had already passed it. The Krovaks had regrouped. Their fleet, though diminished, now carried their deadliest weapon, the Oblivion drone, a massive war machine capable of destroying entire planets. Its black, jagged hull gleamed under the distant sun, and its size alone made even the largest Zareth battleships seem tiny. The Dominion's war council trembled. The generals shouted commands, but their voices carried fear. No strategy, no fleet formation seemed enough. Even the most experienced commanders admitted in private that the Oblivion drone could annihilate their defenses within minutes. Cerethis stood on the command balcony, her violet eyes scanning the approaching horror. She had faced countless enemies, but this machine was unlike any before. Its sheer size, power, and speed defied comprehension. Beside her, Elias Ward watched silently, calm as ever. His dark eyes studied the machine, analyzing its movements, calculating its potential weaknesses. "You are calm," Cerethis said. "Even now, when this monster could destroy everything, you do not falter." "I have faced impossible odds before," Elias replied. This is merely another challenge. Observation first. Action second. The generals laughed nervously. Observation? There is no time to watch. Do you plan to stand here while the Krovaks destroy us all? Elias's gaze did not waver. Strength is not shown through panic. It is shown through control. Watch and you will see. The Oblivion drone struck first. Its massive energy beams sliced through the outer defenses like paper, reducing battle stations to glowing fragments. The Dominion fleets responded, but their attacks bounced harmlessly off the drone's energy shields. Panic began to spread. One general screamed, "We are doomed!" There is nothing that can stop it. Elias stepped forward. There is always a way. You are thinking like the Dominion. Think like a human. Adapt. The nobles turned, shocked. Adapt, you? A human? I will show you, he said calmly. Sarathis hesitated. Could he truly challenge this weapon? She had never seen him fight, never seen what he was truly capable of. All she knew was his mind, sharp, patient, calculating. But a mind alone could not destroy a planet-killing machine. Could it? The battle began in earnest. The Krovaks pressed the attack, firing wave after wave of fighters to distract the Dominion fleets. The Oblivion drone glided toward the central supply hub, its shield shimmering like molten metal. Elias moved to the control deck, ignoring the protests of the generals. I will take command of these ships, he said. Follow my orders exactly. Trust me. The nobles hesitated, but Sarathis placed her hand on his shoulder. Do it, she commanded. Elias nodded. Prepare the human-designed ships first. They are old, overlooked, but their systems are unique. They can bypass the drone's shield patterns if used correctly. The general scoffed. You want to use relics from Earth? Against this machine? You are insane! Madness is seeing what everyone else sees and acting the same, Elias replied. We do not act like everyone else. The human fleet emerged from hiding among the asteroid belt, ships that the Dominion had long forgotten. Elias guided them with precise commands, coordinating movements that the alien commanders could barely follow. Concentrate fire on the lower hull, he instructed. Avoid direct energy beams. Use their own trajectory against them. The first shot struck, bouncing harmlessly off the shields. The nobles gasped. It won't work, one shouted. Elias did not flinch. He adjusted the fleet's positions, recalculated angles, and gave new orders. Within minutes, the first weak points appeared in the drone shields. Small bursts of energy broke through, causing minor damage but proving his plan worked. Keep going, he said calmly. Do not waste strength. Strike where it counts. The battle intensified. The Oblivion drone unleashed a massive energy wave, destroying 2 human-designed ships instantly. Explosions rocked space, sending debris hurtling toward the remaining fleet. Yet Elias remained composed. Focus fire on the exposed shield generator here, he said, pointing at a section barely visible through the drone's massive hull. If we destroy it, the shields fail. Then we strike the core. The Dominion ships hesitated, but Elias's precision and confidence inspired them. They fired exactly where he instructed, dodging energy waves and maneuvering with coordination they had never achieved before. The shield generator erupted in a massive explosion, leaving the drone vulnerable for a moment. Elias seized it. Now, all fire concentrated on the core. The fleet obeyed, and for the first time, the Oblivion drone's energy core was hit directly. Sparks and fire erupted from the vessel as it began to break apart. Sarathis watched, heart pounding. Her human, the one she had thought fragile, was controlling the battlefield like a master. He did not fight with brute strength, but with intelligence, strategy, and absolute precision. The Krovaks watched in shock. Their planet-killer weapon, the pride of their fleet, was faltering under the guidance of a human. The drone's movements became erratic, its attacks misfiring as Elias continued to predict every maneuver. Finally, with one last coordinated strike, the core exploded. The Oblivion drone shattered into pieces, its remains drifting in space like a dead star. The Dominion fleets cheered, while the Krovaks scrambled in retreat. Sarathis could not contain her astonishment. She turned to Elias, eyes wide. I had no idea. He looked at her, calm yet resolute. You thought me weak because of my size, because of my appearance. You judged humans by what you see. Strength is not only physical. It is will, it is mind, it is perseverance. Today you have seen it. The Queen's chest swelled with pride and disbelief. She had married a man she believed harmless, and yet he had just saved her entire empire. Every noble who had doubted him now bowed in respect, murmuring praises. Elias, however, did not bask in glory. He simply returned to studying the battlefield, analyzing the enemy's retreat. His mind never rested, always calculating, always prepared. In the days that followed, the Dominion regrouped. The Krovaks had been forced to retreat, their fleet broken and humiliated. The nobles, once skeptical and mocking, now looked to Elias for guidance. Even the queen herself felt a shift in perspective. Sarathis summoned him to her private chambers. She had never been so serious with anyone, and now she looked at him differently, no longer as a husband to amuse her, but as a partner, a strategist, and a protector. "You are extraordinary," she said softly. "I judged you wrongly. Not just my nobles. I underestimated you too." Elias bowed his head slightly. "I did not seek recognition. I only acted. Strength is shown when it must be, not when it is expected." Sarathis studied him, the weight of realization settling over her. He had revealed more than skill. He had revealed the essence of what made humans unique. Adaptability, courage, ingenuity, and a will that refused to break. "You have changed everything," she whispered. "Not just for the Dominion, but for me." Elias's eyes softened. "I fight for what is right, Your Majesty. That is all any human can promise." She smiled faintly, a mix of admiration and affection. In that moment, she understood something vital. The greatest strength was not always visible. It could be quiet, patient, and unseen, until the moment arrived when it could no longer be ignored. And Elias Ward had arrived. The Dominion celebrated their victory, but Sarathis knew the war was far from over. The Krovaks would return stronger, more determined. But now she had something the aliens of her court had never imagined. A human beside her. A man whose mind and will could match any weapon, any fleet, any enemy. The revelations of battle had changed everything. The Queen now saw him not as a common human, not as a weak diplomat, but as a force in his own right. A partner, a protector, a strategist, and perhaps someday a legend. And as Elias stood beside her throne, quietly analyzing reports and giving guidance, Sarathis understood the truth. The true war had revealed not only the strength of humans, but the unstoppable potential of the man she had married. The Dominion had survived. The Krovaks had retreated, and the human beside her had finally revealed the full depth of his power, hidden, patient, and now undeniable. The aftermath of the battle left the Dominion in a tense but victorious calm. Ships returned to their stations, damaged but intact. The Krovaks' fleet had retreated to the far edges of their territory, nursing their losses, humiliated and broken. Sarathis walked through the palace gardens, the crystal pillars reflecting the light of the twin suns. The gardens were quiet now, the celebrations muted, yet her mind was far from serene. Elias Ward stood nearby, examining maps projected in midair, his dark eyes tracing potential threats and strategies. Even after the victory, he did not rest. Victory was only temporary. He understood that a stronger, more cunning enemy could return. Sarathis approached him, her steps silent against the glowing floor. She had never felt this mixture of pride and humility. The human she had once thought weak, the one she had married for political reasons, was now the very reason the Dominion survived. "You never rest," she said softly, drawing his attention. Elias looked up, a faint smile on his face. "Rest comes after preparation. We cannot celebrate until we know the Dominion is secure." "You prepared well," Sarathis said, her violet eyes locking onto his. "More than anyone expected." "More than even I expected," Elias shrugged. "I only did what humans do best. We adapt, we survive. We learn from what others overlook." Her lips curved into a small smile. "You have revealed something I never knew. Not only to me, but to everyone here. Your strength. It is different, and yet it is undeniable." The nobles gathered in the grand hall later that day. Their expressions were a mix of awe and cautious respect. Whispers filled the room. "The human. He commanded the fleet. He saved us all. He saw things our best generals missed. Perhaps humans are stronger than we believed." Sarathis rose from her throne, her presence commanding silence. "The man beside me is no longer a common diplomat, nor a mere husband. He is Elias Ward, a human whose mind and will have saved the Dominion. From this day forward, he will be acknowledged not only as my partner, but as a protector of our people." The room erupted in astonished murmurs. Some nobles bowed deeply, others still struggled with disbelief, yet all were forced to accept the truth. Elias Ward was no ordinary human. He stepped forward, bowing slightly to the queen. "I do not seek glory," he said. "I acted because it was necessary, because lives depended on it. That is all any human can promise." Sarathis watched him, admiration burning in her eyes. She realized that strength was not always measured in muscles or weapons. It was patience. It was intelligence. It was courage in the face of impossible odds. And Elias embodied it all. In the following days, the Dominion repaired and reinforced its fleets. Human-designed ships, once overlooked, were now studied and integrated into the armada. The generals who had mocked Elias approached him cautiously, asking questions, seeking guidance. Elias answered with quiet humility. "You need not follow blindly," he said. "Learn, observe, adapt. That is how we survived. That is how we will thrive." Even Sarathis was struck by the simplicity and power of his words. A human, unassuming yet unbreakable, had not only saved their empire but also taught them a lesson that centuries of pride could not. One evening, Sarathis walked with Elias along the palace balcony, the twin suns casting long golden beams across the city. The air was filled with the faint hum of returning ships and the soft chatter of citizens celebrating their victory. "You have changed everything," she said quietly. "Not just the outcome of this war, but the way the Dominion sees humans. And the way I see you." Elias looked at her, his calm eyes reflecting the sunlight. "I am still only a human, Your Majesty. We are clever, persistent, and sometimes underestimated. That is our greatest strength. And yet," she said, her voice soft but firm, "you have proven to me that strength comes in many forms, not only in weapons or power, but in mind, in courage, and in will." He nodded. "Then perhaps that is what sets humans apart. We are underestimated, yes. But we endure, we learn, and we act when it matters most." Her violet eyes softened. She had always believed herself to be the strongest in her empire, the most feared warrior among her people. Yet beside this human, she felt something she had never known before. A mixture of respect, awe, and perhaps affection deeper than she had allowed herself to admit. As the Dominion celebrated its survival, Sarathis summoned the council once more. She addressed them with authority, her voice carrying the weight of a queen who had seen truth and strength firsthand. "The Krovaks have retreated, but this is not the end. We will prepare, we will fortify, and we will rise stronger. And let it be known that the man who stands beside me, Elias Ward, has earned his place not by birth or rank, but by action, by will, and by courage. He is our equal. He is our ally. He is the protector of the Dominion." The hall fell silent for a moment. Then one by one the nobles bowed. Even the most skeptical could no longer deny the truth. Elias Ward had revealed the potential of humans, resilient, intelligent, and unstoppable when given the chance. Elias bowed in acknowledgement, but he did not boast. "I acted because it was needed," he said simply. The Dominion's survival was the goal. Nothing more, nothing less. Days later, Sarathis and Elias walked among the citizens of the capital. People cheered for their queen, for their fleets, and for the human who had saved them all. Children pointed at him in awe, whispering, "The human who beat the Krovaks." Elias smiled faintly at the admiration, but he remained humble. "It was not just me," he told Sarathis. "It was the Dominion. Your people fought bravely and your ships carried the fight. I only guided what was already strong." Sarathis regarded him, pride shining in her eyes. "And yet it is you they remember, because you showed them the strength that even we did not see." He looked at her, his calm demeanor softening. "Perhaps strength is not only in recognition, Your Majesty. Perhaps it is in action, in the choices we make when the moment demands it." She nodded, understanding fully. For the first time, she saw not only the human beside her, but the spirit of humanity itself, a spirit that could endure, innovate, and triumph against impossible odds. That night, in the quiet of the palace, Sarathis approached Elias. The celebrations had ended, the fleets were repaired, and the Dominion had been secured for now. "You have changed me," she said softly. "And not only me. You have changed the way this empire will see humans forever." Elias looked at her, calm but earnest. "Humans have always had potential. Often underestimated, often overlooked. But we endure, and when the moment comes, we act. And you have acted beyond what I imagined," she whispered. Her eyes, glowing faintly in the dim light, reflected both admiration and something more. A bond forged in trials and victories. Elias's lips curved into a small smile. Then perhaps it is time for the Dominion to see humans not as weak but as capable. And perhaps, for you to see me as more than you thought. Sarathis nodded, the weight of truth settling over her. The human she had married was not weak. He was not ordinary. He was extraordinary. And beside him she realized she was stronger too. The Dominion's banners fluttered in the wind, the citizens celebrating their survival and the brilliance of their newfound hero. Elias Ward, the human who had once seemed fragile, now stood recognized as a strategist, a protector, and a partner to the Queen. The Krovaks would return, stronger and more determined. But the Dominion had learned a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never underestimate the human spirit. It could survive, endure, and triumph in ways no one, alien or otherwise, could predict. Sarathis looked at Elias, her violet eyes reflecting the twin suns above. The future is uncertain, she said, "Ooh, but with you by my side I have no fear." Elias's eyes met hers. "Then we face it together, Your Majesty, as partners, as allies, and as a force they cannot ignore."